Hello, I'm Ulysses McLaren, and I'm going to talk to you today about professional integrity, which is a topic that I care about a lot because I feel like it's needed a lot for me to achieve the kind of work that I want to do. And I try and get that to happen in the people I work with as well. Integrity and professional integrity is potentially a big topic. It can include things like not taking bribes and no abuse of power and those sort of things. I'm not really talking about the wider topic here. I'm talking about specifically being true to your word. So whether you do what you say you'll do by the time you say you'll do it, and if not, do you update the situation so everyone knows what's going on? So I'll give you a bit of a story. There's a guy called Bob. He's got a Teams call and he's supposed to scribe in that call. So he joins the call 10 minutes late, which means it ends up going past its end time. And that impacts two other people's schedules who had back-to-back meetings after it at 11. He also agreed to send an email with the minutes of that meeting by close of business, but he doesn't do that until the following day. And then people are wondering, should they be following him up? They don't have the notes when they need it. He then doesn't reply to a text message about it that night for over 2 hours, leaving people hanging and unable to proceed with their work. So all of these things, none of them are a big deal in themselves, but they add up to mean that you don't really want to work with Bob. Bob's a bit painful, just a little unreliable. And when this happens a lot over and over again, you start thinking that Bob is not someone who will do what they say they do. So when they say that they will do something for you, you don't believe them. So the way to have and keep integrity, professional integrity, is first off, be true to your word, which means if you're thinking in your own head, when you say you'll do something, what that actually means to you is I'm going to try to do that thing. I'll do my best, I'll give it my best shot. And that's a reasonable thing for anyone to say. Yes, I will do that task for you today. Means I will do my best. And if I don't succeed, I did my best. You can't really ask for more than my best. The problem with that kind of thinking is if you repeatedly do your best, but you've overcommitted and you can't get it done, again, people stop believing that you will do what you say you'll do. It takes the power out of your word. Whereas if you always deliver, then if someone says to me who has great professional integrity, who says, yes, I'll do that for you today, in my head, I'm thinking, excellent, that's done. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to follow up. That's going to be done. It's going to be taken care of. So first off, just do what you say you'll do by the time you say you'll do it. Obviously, life gets in the way, reality gets in the way, and if you can't deliver on your promise, communicate a path forward. So that means if you've said you will send an email by 5 o'clock and it's 4 o'clock or 4:30 and you haven't sent the email and you know you're not going to be able to get to it, get ahead of it. Talk to the person who gave you the task and say, I'm really sorry, I know I said I'd get you that by 5. It's not going to happen. Whatever came up. Is it okay if I get it to you by midday tomorrow? I think that's doable. So getting ahead of it, you haven't lost integrity there. You haven't hit the deadline, left the person guessing and wondering what's going on with that. So you've still kept your integrity that way. And you renegotiate what works. So say they needed that email by 5, it's got something else in the way, then you can potentially bring someone else in to help you with it or whatever it is you need to do. Now, again, life gets in the way. Sometimes with your best intentions of getting ahead of it, the deadline passes and you realize you've been distracted and you've broken your integrity. You haven't hit the deadline, so you've broken your word, you've broken your integrity. There is a way to repair your integrity, which is to come to the person and say, in this case, I'm sorry I didn't get that sent over yesterday. Client had an emergency, I had to jump on it. Next time I will let you know if something like that happens, and I'm confident I can get it done by 5 o'clock today instead of yesterday. So, or again, renegotiate a time that works for both people. So then, once again, you're on the front foot, you're getting ahead of it, you're not hiding away and sort of going, oh, well, I sent it, a couple of hours late the next day, it's not a big deal, I did my best. You keep the person's trust by staying ahead of it and keeping your professional integrity. So a couple of examples of good professional integrity would be turning up for a meeting on time and starting on time. So you're respecting everyone else's time. And then if that meeting looks like it's going to go over time, make sure you get everyone's permission to continue the meeting past its end time. Pay attention to the end time of appointments because people have back-to-back appointments. They might have a hard stop at the end of the meeting. Inform people of potential delays, which is what we talked about with the 5 o'clock email. And deliver all of what was asked, not just a subset. So sometimes people think I've got a 5 o'clock deadline, I'll get something to them by 5 o'clock so they're happy, I'll just get what I can get done, I won't do all of it. So you want to make sure you're completing everything, or you're communicating that you've done part of it and you're going to do the rest later. Now, there's a concept called TOFU, T-O-F-U, take ownership and follow up. So this comes in when you are potentially handballing the task off to someone else. So you've been given a task and you go, oh, I'm not the best person to do that task. You delegate it to someone else. You don't want to handball it off and just go, right, that's their problem now. You want to make sure you've still got ownership for that task and you still follow up the person you delegated to make sure it actually happens. And that can be even if you delegate back to the person who gave you the task, you still want to follow up and make sure that they are getting the success they need, they're getting the task done by the time they need it done, and you're supporting them in that. And then when people who have great professional integrity do make a mistake, they proactively address it. They don't wait to be called out, they don't hide away. So if you have professional integrity, you always take full ownership of any task given to you, you inspire trust in coworkers and managers, and you hold yourself to a high professional standard. And that becomes part of your identity. It starts to become easier over time because you want to stay consistent to that. It feels like staying true to yourself. And it feels like your word has power, whether you're giving your word to someone else in that, yes, I'll do that task for you, or to yourself. So if you go on a diet, you know you'll be able to stick to that diet because you are promising yourself that you will do work within this framework. So managers with employees who have professional integrity trust their employees and they are comfortable delegating more important work. So this is a path to promotion, really, because once a manager starts seeing that you are delivering every time you say you'll do something, you do it and you do everything that's asked, they're going to trust you more, they're going to give you things that they care about more, and you end up with more responsibility. Now, this can be quite stressful. This whole concept of no longer trying your best, but actually striving to actually deliver everything you say you'll do can be pretty stressful because you have a lot in your head all of a sudden. You're not just thinking, oh, well, I'll just work and I'll do my best work and that's good enough. You're always thinking, oh, what have I committed and what do I have to deliver? And if I can't deliver, who do I need to update? So there's a few tools you can use to help you keep on top of this. And there's kind of two categories of tools. There's things that will help you to remember to do something or to do something by a time. And then there's tools that give you, help you sort of notarize the details of everything that you need to do so that you make sure you're doing the whole task. So doing the task by the time and making sure the whole task gets done. So the first part of that is remembering to do something in the first place. So I'm a big user of technology to make sure that I stay on top of this stuff because my own personal memory is terrible and I find it very stressful trying to remember everything that I've committed to do and keeping it in my head, and I'm not great at juggling that kind of stuff. The easiest one for me is Siri reminders or Google Assistant reminders. And all I do is say, hey Siri, remind me to do so-and-so by such and such, or hey Siri, set up an appointment for me for whatever. And it doesn't break my flow. I'm in the middle of working on something. I can easily do that, get my commitment down, and get it out of my mind. Obviously, you wouldn't set a 5 o'clock reminder if you have to send an email by 5 o'clock. You'd set it for 4 o'clock, so you've got time to do it. The main use of this is something, I can't do this task right now. I know I'm in the middle of something, or I need to be somewhere else or with someone else before I can do that. So set up a reminder for when you think that'll work. Calendar appointments are really good. If you're going to use calendar appointments, you need to start thinking about your calendar differently. You need to start thinking, if my calendar says that I'm doing something, then I'm doing that thing. And it can take a bit of a mind shift to get there. But setting up a calendar appointment, especially when you're working with other people, is a really good way to organize yourself and others. And if you want to do that, make sure you keep your calendar up somewhere you can see it. So this little sidebar here on the side of your Outlook, I spend a lot of my time in email, so I have Outlook open a lot. Helps me a lot. You can also use things like widgets in your phone, top part of your phone, have your next couple of appointments there at all times. So keep an eye on it. Know the start time and the end time of every appointment that you're coming up. And the other thing is Follow Up Then. Follow Up Then is a free service which you can send an email to Follow Up Then, or you can BCC Follow Up Then, and it will remind you about that email thread at the time period that you specify. So for instance, if I'm trying to do TOFU, take ownership, follow up, and I send a task to Bob, and I know that I'm expecting a response within a week, I will BCC 1 week at followupthen.com, and then I can send the email, delete the thread, get it out of my inbox, not think about it, and then in a week's time, it comes back into my inbox again, and I can go, oh great, have I received a response from Bob? If not, I'll follow him up. Now, doing the full task. This is all really about getting a shared understanding between yourself and the person who gives you the task about what constitutes done. How do I know if I've completed that task? So first thing you can do is just use a work tracking system. So many people use their email inbox, so you can send an email to yourself. You could use something like Azure DevOps or Jira, which are more robust work tracking systems that you can prioritize. But so long as you write down all the details of the task that you think you're going to complete, and you put it in a place that the person who gave you the task can see. So if you send yourself a to myself email, CC the person who gave you the task. If you make a product backlog item, make sure you either mention them so that they can see it, or at least have it in a place that you know they can access, and they do access and know that it's there. Scrum is an agile software development methodology, and it deals with these problems all the time, because if you are writing features, creating features for a piece of software, you need to make sure that the software actually does what the product owner intended it to do. So they've got two tools to help with this. The first is the definition of done, which is ubiquitous across all items of work, and it's things like saying, in order to say this is done, it has to have been tested by one or two other people, it has to have been deployed to the staging environment, maybe it has some minimum level of unit tests involved. Whatever it is that you as a team and as the product owner together agree, that's the definition of done, and that's across everything. Then you have acceptance criteria, which are specific to each item, and that's the specific details of what that one feature needs to do and how it works and what's expected. The next tool you can use is putting in buffers. So having a little bit of healthy pessimism. It's quite common for people who want to impress to say, yeah, I'll get that done for you. It'll take me half a day. Or you're running late, someone says, hey, where are you? And you say, oh, I'll be there in 5 minutes. But really, you're 10, 15 minutes away, and you're just thinking, oh, maybe I can make it by 5 minutes. So every time you do that, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot, because you're setting yourself up for failure. So put in a bit of a buffer in your default way of estimating. If you are 5 minutes away from somewhere, say you're 15 minutes away, so that you actually will arrive within 15 minutes. If you're making an estimate for something that's half a day, but you're thinking, oh, maybe I can get it done in half a day, say it's a day. Make it more realistic. Try not to overpromise and under-deliver. You want to underpromise and over-deliver. And part of that same comment is don't overcommit. So it's common for people to think if they're given a task, they should say, yes, I'll take it on. I want to help. I'm being helpful. Yes, of course, sure. Give me the task. Sure. Yep, I'll do that. Next task. Yep, no worries. Next task. Yep. But actually look at your capacity. Look at your schedule. Look at how much you've already committed to in that time frame, and make realistic estimations about what you can deliver in a time frame. Instead of saying yes to everything, make your yes a reliable yes, and occasionally say no or I'll try. You'll have happier relationships, you'll have a more reliable work environment, work experience, and you can start this with yourself and then spread it out to your close colleagues. And if you get an entire organization of people who do this, you can't believe how much you can get done and how much you can rely on others to get done as well. So I hope that's been useful for you. It's just ways to keep your word and become more powerful in what you say you'll do actually becomes reality. So this is Ulysses McLaren from SSW TV, signing out. Thanks.